Welcome everyone back to the TD Sports Press podcast. We're back to you on this Sunday evening, November 2nd. What a week of college football we had. We just finished week 10 of college football. In today's episode, we'll be discussing some week 10 takeaways that we have with the slate of games that we have. We'll also be going over our coaching carousel news as there were some news. My name is Tracy Dayton and this is TD Sports Press. And before we get started, if you guys are new to the channel, if you guys could subscribe, it would really help us. We're trying to get to 30 subscribers by Sunday. If we could hit that, that'd be awesome. We go live every day on TikTok, post a video on day on TikTok. We're live on YouTube Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and we do all our predictions on YouTube. So thank you guys for already subscribing. I think we're at 22 subscribers at the time we're making this. So thank you guys for helping us with that. With that being said, let's get right into our live show that starts in Auburn. Hugh Freeze is fired at Auburn. Hugh Freeze went 5-15 in the SEC games. I think he was right around 500 overall. This was a move that I saw going into July. We talked about this. There was going to be a team in the SEC, a couple of teams, South Carolina being the other team. We didn't predict these two teams, but my prediction was there are going to be 2 or 3 SEC teams that don't live up to expectations. And this is what happened. Hugh Freeze is fired at Auburn. This doesn't surprise me. This is a team that I kind of recognized early. I could see this going on. It was either going to go two ways for Auburn. They were either going to be really good and everything goes their way, or they're going to be completely terrible. I didn't think there was an in-between, and there was an in-between, and it happened last night as well, losing 10-3 to Kentucky. I mean, they win that game, and Hugh Freeze isn't fired yet, but that was just the icing on the cake. Like that was the icing on top. See you later, Hugh Freeze. And it just makes the coaching carousel that much deep. Very interesting with that. So, yeah, very interested, like I said, in who's going to be available at this job, because I don't think they can hire a coach until Florida and LSU get the people they want, because I'm sure they're targeting the same people that Florida and LSU want. I think that those are the top 2 in the food chain of this coaching carousel, and they hold the keys to what's going to happen. So, like I said, Hugh Freeze, not surprised at all. This is a move that I saw coming. So, moving on. Let's get into the actual games on the field. We're going to get started is the Big 12 better than the ACC? If you guys watched college football yesterday, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. What could have went wrong for the ACC went wrong for the ACC yesterday. And we're talking about Georgia Tech and Miami. Both were in my top 10, Georgia Tech was in my top 10. Miami was like number 14, and they both lose to inferior ACC teams. It just can't happen. The ACC was looking maybe like a 2 or 3 bid league to the college football playoff, and after tonight, I think they're a 1 league bid. I think they're a 1 league team. And then we look at the Big 12. The Big 12, everything that could have went right for the Big 12 happened. Obviously, Houston losing didn't help the cause, but losing to West Virginia, we'll talk about that game later as well. But Texas Tech, Utah, and BYU, all 3 of those schools, I think, are better than any team in the ACC right now. If it came down to, if I had to give multiple bids to the Big 12 or the ACC, the Big 12 deserves them. The ACC is 1-7 or 8, I don't remember which, against the Big 12. SMU's gotten beat by TCU and Baylor. TCU also beat SMU. And TCU's like a middle of the pack in the Big 12. They're not even in the top half of the Big 12 right now. It's just terrible for the ACC. And there's all these people on here talking about, the ACC has more national championships than the Big 12. And what does that have to do with any argument that's currently being made about both these conferences? Like, it doesn't make sense. I think the Big 12 is better than the ACC right now. If someone told me, who's the top team, who's a better conference top to bottom, I'd pick the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is better. I think West Virginia would beat Stanford. That's an example. But like I said, it's not a good look when SMU beats Miami when the SMU's already lost to 2 Big 12 teams. So the ACC, they're in crisis mode over there right now. The Big 12, I mean, as long as those 3 teams keep winning, I think they get 2 of the 3 and maybe 3, depending on who is the 3rd team that's not in the college football, in the Big 12 championship. Like, if Utah is left out of the Big 12 championship, I don't think Utah gets in. But if it's like BYU or Tech, I think BYU's a shoo-in. But if it's like Texas Tech, like if BYU beats Texas Tech, that's something we could also talk about as well. So with that being said, that was a question that I had after Week 10. I saw a lot of this in my mentions on Twitter as well. So I just wanted to, start the show off with those couple things here so we can get right into the takeaways. First off, we're going to talk about Oklahoma goes into Knoxville, Tennessee, and knocks off the Tennessee Volunteers in a sold-out crowd. Gotta have a game for Tennessee that we talked about. Oklahoma, they bounced back. Everything that could have went right for Oklahoma went right for them yesterday. John Mateer finally was able to move around a little bit. He ran for about 80 yards. So that was really good for Oklahoma. We're looking at the box score right now of Oklahoma. Like I said, their running back had 16 carries for 115 yards. John Mateer, 159 yards and 1 interception. But John Mateer did run for 80 yards. And then you look at Tennessee. This was just a terrible loss for Tennessee. They had to win this game, in my opinion, to make the college football playoff. I don't think they can make it anymore. They have really good losses. They do. They have this, Alabama, and Georgia. But other than that, who is Tennessee's best win? I honestly don't know who Tennessee's best win is at this point of the year. Is it Syracuse? If that's that, then it's not looking good for them. Oklahoma, on the Oklahoma side of it, this was a huge win for Brent Venables. He saved his job yesterday in Knoxville. If they lose this game, the whispers grow a little bit more. I really do believe that. And they went in, and they won. It wasn't pretty on offense, but they did enough. They put up enough points. So Brent Venables, they are still in contention for an at-large bid in the college football playoff. They probably have to win out. Maybe they can sneak in with 3 losses. I would say that. But Oklahoma was my dark horse to make the college football playoff. So it is looking really good for me right now that Oklahoma is on the doorstep of the college football playoff. That is always something you like to see. And then you look at Joey Aguilar. The dude threw for 400 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That doesn't help. But they can't run the football. Tennessee just could not run the football. They had 3 backs. I think they were probably around 80 yards. But, but the interceptions that Joey did throw for Tennessee, that was the story of the game right there. There was a couple drives that were going that he threw those interceptions on, if I remember right. And you just can't have that in these kind of games. That just can't happen in a game like this. And it hurt them. 10 turnovers and all that. So you got to give your hats off to Oklahoma. They had to have this game to be in a position to make the college football playoff, and they got it. So Oklahoma's going to stay in the mix. Tennessee, I think they're done. I think it's going to be another painful ending to the year for them. Really do believe that. So, that's where I would go there with that being said. So, let's move on to, a little choppy here. Our Wi-Fi's a little crazy. I think we fixed it. All right, there we go. All right, let's move on to our next game here. So, moving on. All right, we're back in the ACC here. SMU picks over the win over number 10 Miami, 26-20 in overtime. This game was more about, this is the same old Miami in November. I think Mario Cristobal is 4-11 in November games. I think I saw that stat floating around on Twitter. This was terrible for Miami. This is a game you win. This is a game, if you're a team who we thought they were, obviously, you just go in and you impose your will on the other team. And they couldn't do that. For every, punch that Miami threw, SMU had 2 of them. Carson Beck just did not have a good game, and then he acts like a moron in the post-game presser. They were running the same defense the whole time. Just throw your offensive coordinator under the bus next time. The guy, everyone thought he was this guy. Maybe it was Georgia that was the problem. It's him that's the problem. He doesn't show up for big games. And not big games, I mean a game in November when you have to have it to make the college football playoff. I don't know if Miami can get back in the ACC championship race. That's 2 losses in conference. And you look at all the teams that have 1 loss in the ACC right now, I'm convinced nobody plays each other in the ACC with how many teams have 1 loss. But besides that, this was just terrible. This was the worst possible outcome for Miami. I don't know what more to say. I don't think Miami makes the playoff anymore. Even if they win out, I don't think they make the playoff anymore. I think people would agree with me on that. This is just a game that you had to have. Mario and Chris, this is just the same old Miami. They did the same thing last year, losing to Syracuse and Georgia Tech in November. And now they have a loss to Louisville at the end of October and SMU the first day of November. And yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what was the problem here. So, but Miami, the good thing for Miami is that Notre Dame win is looking better and better. So that's why they're not going to fall too far in my rankings, I would say, compared to Georgia Tech. We'll talk about what the heck happened and whatever happened with Georgia Tech this week. But, I mean, I got to give your hats off to SMU. This was a game we said on Tuesday that on the upset alert that I was alerted about. SMU coming off a loss against Wake Forest and playing a Miami team that hadn't left the state of Florida until they went to SMU. So hats off to SMU for pulling this off. They didn't have the greatest non-conference, but they're really I think they have 3 losses right now. So they're not. This is just like even in a down year, like they're still gonna make a bowl game. So that's gonna be good for recruiting purposes. I think they have a really good head coach. SMU does. I think he just signed a contract extension, if I remember right, because he was being considered for the Arkansas job. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought I saw that being thrown out there. But huge win for SMU. They had to have, Miami had to have, and they didn't get it. That's the only way you could put that game. That's a game that you have to win to make the college football playoffs, and they won't. They'll probably be in the Pop-Tart Bowl against like Cincinnati now or something. So moving on. Hey, if you guys would leave a subscribe. So if you guys are already this far in the video, go ahead and leave a subscribe. Would really help us out. We're at 22 subscribers, trying to get to 30. And we, like I said, we put our heart and soul into this. So anything that you guys could give us, a follow, subscribe, it would really help us out. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. So if you guys could help us out that way, that would be awesome. Moving on. We're going to talk about this other clown show of a program, Georgia Tech here. NC State over number 8 Georgia Tech, 48-36. What in the hell did Georgia Tech, like what is that? I just don't understand here. I just don't understand it. You look at NC State, they were a program that they do have, NC State beat Virginia, but I mean, it's NC State, and this just feels like a game this game was coming for Georgia Tech. Like, this is a game that, like, the last 3 or 4 ACC games that Georgia Tech has played, they've done enough to win, but it hasn't been convincing, and it finally caught up to them. You gave up 50 points to NC State. Like, what is that defense? I'll be honest with you guys. I in my newest rankings, I don't even have Georgia Tech ranked. And that might be a hot take, but who is Georgia Tech's best win right now? Yeah, like, is it 3-5 Clemson? Like, who is Georgia Tech's best? Colorado? Like, I don't know. Like, Georgia Tech, like, I think they're just beating up on inferior competition right now. And besides, not beating up anymore, obviously. They lose to NC State in a game they... November football is a different animal in college football. We're going to see some more upsets next week. But, like, in a game like you have to have it, Haynes King was phenomenal. Like, the offense was not the problem. The defense gives up 50 points to NC State. And I understand that NC State had a quarterback that was, we talked about in the preseason that was going to be okay. But giving up 50 points in November? What are you doing? Like, you can't. I just don't understand. Like I said, anything that could have gone wrong for the ACC went wrong, and this was probably the worst result of them all. Georgia Tech was undefeated, and they were already not getting the benefit of the doubt based off who they played this year, and then this happened. So, it's going to be this is a tough pill to swallow for Georgia Tech, I would say. I don't even think they control their destiny in the ACC championship anymore with like 9 teams tied with 1 loss. So, there's that. That's the ACC. There's our ACC rant of the day. Georgia Tech, I don't know what that is. They better figure it out. I don't think they can get 2 losses. So, moving on, let's talk about this game. This game was very interesting. We have number 5 Georgia Tech that played Florida, and they won this game 24-20. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. On here. So, Georgia, they did not look their best coming out the bye. Florida played inspired football. This is the kind of game I thought was going to happen. I thought the 7.5 was a lot of points. But you look at Florida, they probably should have won this game. There was, I think, a catch call that wasn't called for Florida about 4 minutes ago. But, I mean, for the most part, like I've been saying about with Kirby Smart and Georgia, I will talk more about Florida in a second. Just this Georgia team just feels like a fun team that Kirby Smart likes to coach. It's not his best team that he has, but it really looks like he really enjoys coaching this squad. Now, back to Florida. Florida, it was, just another week, another loss. Like, they play close games. They just can't figure it out. They might surprise a team late in the year, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick one up. I think they're due for one. I thought it might have been this one. And then you look at number 5, Georgia. They just have to keep winning to keep pace in the SEC championship race. Less teams are now, part of that. I think that the SEC championship will have 2 one-loss SEC teams, and Georgia only has one right now to Alabama. So they just got to keep winning and hope Texas A&M drop one somewhere. So this is, it wasn't the greatest win, but that's just the SEC right now. It's not going to be, rainbows and candy and all that. Like, you're just going to have to, buckle it down sometimes and just find a way to win. And Georgia did enough to win. This game could have been 31-20, but the running back fell down at the 1-yard line. So with that being said, Georgia, this is a huge win for Georgia. Anytime you can beat Florida, like I said, I talked about on Tuesday, this game should be at a campus site. I don't know why it's not. So, yeah, that's what I say. Why is that game not a campus site? So, let's move on. Number 23, USC over Nebraska. So, looking at this game, number 23, USC, they did enough to win. That I think that a lot of people would agree with that. They did enough to win. At the end of the day, you got to give props to USC. They found a way to win. They're not good on the road in the Big Ten or lately with Lincoln Riley. And in a game they had to have, they got it. Their offense wasn't great. You got to give props to the Nebraska defense for how good they looked. But USC, they're going to be a team. They still have a game at Oregon at the end of the year that makes them very interesting to make a playoff run. I got them ranked right now in my rankings. They might be able to make a little playoff push. We'll see what happens. I think they still have Washington on the schedule as well. That'll be very interesting with that game. But USC, I mean, they go in a hostile environment and win. I don't remember the last time you could say something about that. Now let's talk about Nebraska. Obviously, Nebraska was leading this game at halftime. Dylan Raiola broken fibula, I think that's what it was, or the reports that came out today. I mean, it almost feels like Nebraska's cursed at this point. Like, anything that could go wrong for Nebraska went wrong. And I think to sum up Nebraska's season would be Johnson's handoff on 4th and 1 where he stumbles, and they don't get the 4th and 1. That just describes Nebraska football in the 2020s. And I'm a guy that thinks if Nebraska football is good, college football is better. So it kind of stings for me to watch Nebraska they just hurt themselves. Like, honestly, they just find ways to lose games. A 3-point loss to Michigan because they couldn't stop the run. Whatever they did at Minnesota, I'm not sure what the heck that was. And now they pick up their third loss, a third loss to a USC squad who they had, even with a backup quarterback, they had a shot at the end of the game to go down and drive and win. And it didn't happen. Matt Rule signs that 2-year extension. They gotta figure out how to win, big games. They beat inferior, teams sometimes, but I think in order for Nebraska to take that next step, they're gonna have to get a win over a ranked opponent someday. Like, it has to happen at some point. I mean, in order to be the kind of team that people think you are, I think you have to win a game like that. So, just another tough week for Nebraska, not putting it all together and coming out for wins. So, USC pulls that one out in a very, that was a fun environment. That was fun with the blackout and everything. So, moving on. West Virginia beats Houston, number 23. I saw some pictures of the Houston Stadium. That place was like there might have been half capacity for this game, which is kind of ironic because Houston was ranked number 23, as you guys can see on this awesome graphic we have here. But they have a chance to make the Big 12 championship if they win out. That's all they had to do. And out of all teams, you give up 45 points to West Virginia. Out of all the teams you could have given up 45 points to, you give up 45 to West Virginia. They started down this game 14-0 and came back and, 21-21 at halftime. And then you have turnovers. Can't get off the field on 3rd down. Anything that could have gone wrong for Houston went wrong in this game. That's the only way that I could possibly talk about. So, looking at this game, Houston's not, I think that's their second loss. I don't think you can get 2 losses and make the Big 12 championship. I think Utah has a mathematical way for that way to happen, but I don't think Houston does. So, Houston, it's still a first year under a new head coach, and I think they're moving in the right direction, but man, this kind of stinks for Houston fans. This is the kind of game that you thought you were going to have. So, yeah. With that being said, West Virginia beats Houston, and that's what we'll go with. Moving on. Our last game of the night that we'll be doing. Number 24, Utah, over number 17, Cincinnati. 45-14. I tell you what, it feels like anytime Utah plays in Rice-Eccles Stadium after 8 p.m., they just beat the snot out of the opponent. Last week, even back to last year, no, they didn't. They went 5-7. They didn't win a home game. But the years before that, it just feels like a death sentence if you go to Utah at past 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And Cincinnati was the victim of it. This was a 24-14 game in the third quarter, a halftime, and Utah gets that punt return for a touchdown. This Utah team has looked great. They have had 2 great blowouts the last 2 weeks to kind of, ease the pain of that Utah win. And they honestly have to be the biggest BYU fans this week. I know that sucks for Utah fans to hear. But for Utah to make the Big 12 championship game, they need BYU to beat Texas Tech so that they have 2 losses. And then they need BYU to beat Cincinnati because Cincinnati still has 1 loss. But Utah, this is just a game that Utah had to have, and they just won it in a way that it wasn't even close. Utah just, dominated Cincinnati in the trenches, anywhere. They were even, getting the ball in the air a little bit against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's quarterback, they didn't have a good game. He had some great throws. I was really impressed with some of the throws that he made. But yeah, this was a great win for Utah in a spot where they had to have it. So with that being said, that's our game takeaways. We want to make mention of the Texas-Vandy game. My current thoughts on the Texas-Vandy game. Texas is, I wouldn't say they're back, but they can play themselves back into the college football playoff. I currently have them, I think I have them ranked at number 12 in my rankings right now. And they still have some tough games. They have Georgia and Texas A&M still on the schedule. But for anyone who thought, Arch Manning was terrible and this or that, you might have jumped the gun. I'm not saying you jumped the gun on Arch Manning, but the way that Texas looked yesterday and Arch Manning, 31-37, I think that was his stat line. If I remember, I don't have the number right in front of me. But, in a home game that they had to have, Arch Manning played really well. And I've been on the person, I didn't want to be too hard on him at first. I think that he hasn't, this is his first year really, this is his first year starting college football in the SEC in a really tough conference. So I was happy for Arch because he's really struggled, and he had a really good game against a very good Vanderbilt team. So, that being said, that's the end of the episode. Thanks for everyone that's made it up to this point. If you made it this far, might as well subscribe. But like I said, we go live Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, prediction show Tuesday, upset meter on Thursday. So with that being said, that's the end of this episode, and we will see you guys Tuesday night. Check out TikTok as well. And with that being said, we'll see you guys later.